I'm live. All right, cool. What's up, folks? We're back. It is about 80 degrees where I am, and I have to keep the windows closed because my dude out there likes to buzz around the garden. So I'm going to just sit here and sweat for a bit. But last week we did the Nintendo Direct live stream, which I was looking forward to. And I just thought I would talk about what was seen there. A lot of big titles were given to us. Switch 2 players, especially. Whenever you release a game on the Switch 1, it will be on the Switch 2. Whether or not it's optimized for the Switch 2 is another story. I'm looking at Divinity Original Sin 2 yet again, which was a tremendous title. I enjoyed very much so. Rumors of Baldur's Gate 3, which is also Larian Studios coming out in the Switch 2. There's a lot of information that's being fed, but the exclusives are really the winning blows. Those are the ones that separate Nintendo consoles, especially the Switch 2, from the others. And I said when they announced the processing power of the Switch 2, both docked and portable, that I can't wait to see what Nintendo does with that kind of technology. And they're doing tremendously. Switch 2 is breaking records in sales. The games are breaking records in sales, more or less. Mario Kart World is selling like it's going out of style and everything. So there's so much going on with Nintendo right now, and the console's only been around for not even 4 months. I am enjoying myself. It's the greatest console have ever had, and I've had all the Sony consoles, Microsoft consoles, up until the more recent ones. So when it comes to having a good time playing video games and everything, which is what this is about, best time I'm having is with the Switch 2. It's the best console. And when you look at gaming, see, I'm not really a person that takes video games so seriously. I take winning at video games seriously, but I don't take the games themselves or the gaming industry seriously. They're not movies, children. They're not supposed to be. The whole art thing is a conversation I'm tired of having with everybody. Video games are not meant to be art. Art is earned. Art is important. There's a responsibility to those that make art. I'm a writer. I try to make artistic novels in the sense that I see what's wrong around me and I come up with a means to express that as entertainingly and as intellectually as I can through metaphor, assimilation, all that stuff. So I'm not having that conversation with you kids anymore. I know you want to be pretentious. I know you want to make everything that you like the biggest, most important aspect of the universe, but video games are just meant to have fun. But the reason why I focus on video games is because my movie reviews keep getting pulled. So I'm not doing that anymore. Plus, the only thing I would be willing to review really would be Marvel movies, seeing as how they're the only ones that are almost films. They're not completely. There's a lot of talking, as I mentioned before, but they're almost films, which is more than I can say for all these other stupid ass pieces of shit that come out on Hollywood and everything. I'm sorry, the wokeness is that's right. Just make the same movies, only not woke, and I'm sure they'll be historically known as cinema's apex. But whatever the case, this is why I focus mostly on video games now, because of the fact that it is a medium that has been very popularized. And has it done anything for me? No, but I'm sometimes having a good time, especially when it comes to Nintendo exclusives. But after we've had these announcements, once more, my channel is being flooded with videos from people I'm not subscribed to, nor would I ever subscribe to these fucking liars and these grifters and these sham scam artists and everything. Never would I want to have anything to do with these people. Maybe one of them I watched a video because they were talking bad about another so-called AAA game. But after that, I've never watched anything. And I can't, like Twitter or even Facebook, say I'm not interested. YouTube insists these people have high view counts and watch time because of that moronic algorithm that is put in place specifically for the rich people that buy all the view times and everything and all the publicity and whatever. And thus, they will always be referred to on my homepage. And these people won't stop. Now, listen, I applaud the effort. I really do. I know that you're trying to fight Nintendo like you're trying to fight Disney. It's not working. Nintendo is all you have. If you truly are the king of, if you truly are a video game fan, shut the fuck up and either go along with the ride or back out. But Nintendo announced Resident Evil, I'll say the Ethan trilogy, Biohazard Village, and Requiem, which, by the way, I thought because the Switch 2 was such an underperforming console like the Switch 1 was, that it would never be able to play a game like that, despite the fact that it has Cyberpunk on an SD card, Street Fighter 6, Path of the God. I mean, it's got so many different games out right now that are being played on PC, your Star Wars Outlaws and everything. But apparently the hardware is inferior. No, the hardware is on par with all your PlayStation 5s and Xboxes when it is docked. You can have a conversation about the actual physical hardware. The CPU is top notch. Whether or not the GPU is as good as an Xbox Series 1 X, whatever, is not what the problem is. The problem is the developers, because you have to understand something. They need to develop for two consoles in one. The Switch 2 is not a portable, it is a hybrid. Like the Switch 1. The Switch 1 was akin to a PlayStation 4 docked or an Xbox One docked. And portable, it was like a step above the 2DS, 3DS, whatever. The reason that certain games seem to take shortcuts or lower definition or whatever on, or fidelity on the Switch 1 version when they were being released the same day they were on PC and whatever. The reason is because you have to optimize for two consoles in one. But most third-party or AAA companies, they're willing to do that because they want their shit to sell. And Nintendo sells games. It's just that simple. That didn't hurt, but that kind of knocked me off kilter for a second. It's just that simple. That's better. So when it comes to the Switch 2, I don't understand. I'm going to say this one more time. 4K, 120 frames per second. What are you not grasping about this? This is what the Switch 2, when it is docked, is capable of handling. So any game that plays at 4K, 120 frames per second, like Hades 2, which the release date was announced. I'm having it download on my Switch 2 right now, Switch 2 version. Whatever games, Borderlands 4, which is coming out soon, the Resident Evil, but the Final Fantasy Rebirth trilogy that I have no interest in whatsoever. I played the original 7. It fucking sucks. Every Final Fantasy game sucks. Every Square Enix game sucks. But yet, the journalists and so-called experts or critics of the YouTube web space will lead you to believe they're some of the greatest games of all time. No, they're not. It is Shin Megami Tensei for morons with terrible storylines that they force down your throat with endless cutscenes. So that is why those are bad games. Fundamentally and foundationally bad games based on what fun, fundamentally, foundationally would be defined as. But if you like it, have fun with it. I don't care. But what I'm saying is that this had all been announced, and immediately people are talking about how, well, wasn't that great a direct, or Nintendo's lost its mind, the Switch 2 is evil. All this shit just keeps popping up on and I don't want to see it. I don't care. You tried, okay? You people ruined Civilization 7 for everybody. It's a good game, fundamentally and foundationally a good, solid title, and you ruined it with all your bitching and moaning about the HUD, the user interface of shifting ages and changing up the civilizations for the leaders and everything. You bitched and moaned because you didn't get what you wanted specifically, or you just didn't want it to succeed because of a couple of leaders that you didn't think belonged there, this fucking thing. So because of that, for your own personal interest or whatever, you ruined that. You're trying to ruin Disney, which Disney's doing that on their own. They don't need your help. But it's not going anywhere because it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. Typically, multi-billion-dollar organizations don't just drop out of the sky or fall apart by the seams because a couple of people had a problem with wokeness or whatever. But now you have Nintendo which is a Japanese-centric company. And all you so-called geeks and wannabe nerds, you're all obsessed with Japan to the point that you made Persona a selling series. And I love Atlas Sega. I say this all the time. Personas 3, 4, and 5 are fucking shit. They're terrible excuses of games. There is nothing fun to them. There's nothing enjoyable unless you want to sit there and live a teenager's life in Tokyo via video games that make it a lot easier. And that was also announced, the real release on the Switch 2 of Persona 3. But there have been so many stories. There was one made by IGN, which gave Mario and Luigi Brothership a 5 out of 10. I had my problems with the end, but I think that if I just played that game again, without the camera seemed to move there, without the stress that I put on myself of finishing for the next project, I think I would have not really had too much of a problem with the end result, end games, the last missions or whatever, because of the fact that I was having a great time with that game. A 5 out of 10. But anyway, IGN had an article that said, and some nuts here that don't know his name, don't care to know his name, jumped on it, that third-party developers are angry at Nintendo, or at least having a problem with it. Why? Why, you ask? Well, because they talked to one person from Digital Foundry, a group that made a whole slew of videos talking about the terrible hardware of the Switch 2 when it was first released because the screen wasn't any good on the portable version, which of course was disproven because they're a bunch of fucking numbnuts, or at least they said that an update would have changed it, and now you don't hear about this anymore. But this one source went around Gamescom saying that Nintendo's not giving out third-party developer kits or wants them to develop for both the Switch 1 and Switch 2 to be cross-compatible. So I read this, and people were trying to make this into a story, and I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Capcom, Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, From Software, Gearbox, even independents like Supergiant and others, Tecmo. These are names, Square Enix, off the top of my head, that I think are third party. And I think a bunch of them are considered AAA, right? Okay. They're all developing games exclusively for the Switch 2 or transporting their other games previously released to the Switch 2 exclusively. So that's a bullshit story. What's probably happening is either some developers who are trying to get their names known for something are probably blaming Nintendo when Nintendo is just not looking at any kind of real marketing value to what it is that they're producing. Or it's probably just somebody making shit up, especially when, if you're a journalist, you have to trace your sources to their source. You can't just ask one person and they say, oh, well, I heard that. That's conjecture. You can't base your entire story as a journalist on conjecture, but we're not talking about journalism. We're talking about nerds or geeks that want to be journalists. And they think that they're solving world hunger or whatever by talking video games at a video game expo. Whatever the case, whether it's because of stupid shit like that, or it's people complaining about how no one likes Mario Kart World, despite the fact people are still buying it and still playing it. I don't even know how you can look at what you're looking at everyone's accounts and seeing how much they spend time playing the game. Whatever it is, they've been trying to sabotage Nintendo and it's not working. So as I've said, I give you an A for effort, but you definitely have an F in execution because it's not going to work. Nintendo won. It's over. There isn't a console war anymore, okay? We're going to go back to the late 80s, early 90s, which, again, all of you kids love so much, to where Nintendo owns the video game space. And if somebody wants to come out one of these days or whatever and make their own console, cool. PlayStation will go down swinging like Sega did. They're going to release a PlayStation 6. It's probably going to cost you $12,000. It will not be a Switch. There is no way either one of those companies, Microsoft or Sony, can make that in less than $5,000. It will most likely be some kind of portable that integrates in some way, shape, or form, but will not be a hybrid. Microsoft already announced the portable themselves, $800. You guys are screaming and yelling still about a $450 modern generation console that becomes a modern generation portable. You're still complaining about that and talking about how Nintendo, the greatest gaming company that was ever put together, is greedy. Well, yeah, they're an organization that's worth billions. They have shareholders that will not accept losses during every quarter or even one quarter. So, yeah, they're greedy, but you're going to make it seem as though they're the ones screwing you and they're the problem when you like Sony, when you like PC, when you like Microsoft, who are the biggest fucking scumbags in the world when it comes to gaming. Because Sony makes shit hardware, Microsoft makes shit user interfaces and operating systems, and Microsoft is the PC operating system, and it's a shit operating system. When you look at your games and you see them chopping data and dropping frame rates and quality and everything, that's because of Microsoft. If you're playing on PC or Xbox, Microsoft's operating system, which they sell at a certain amount of terabytes, gives you less than that because the operating system is worth 100 gigabytes. When you buy a PlayStation and their shit just breaks apart anyway and it destroys your discs or it spits them out automatically or they make you download everything or whatever, and they promise a certain amount of gigs and you don't get those gigs because of the fact their operating system sucks as well, that's you being screwed in the ass. Now, you don't complain about that. When Sony announced that there was a PlayStation 5 Pro that was going to charge $700, oh, people complained. But they didn't go out of their way to make it seem as if Sony was evil or Sony was greedy. But yet these stupid fucking people who are getting two modern consoles for the price of one at $450 still bring that up. Games today are going to cost you $70+, and they're still making it seem like Nintendo is greedy. So now the person that advocates this kind of behavior will say, well, what about the whole thing with the virtual board? It's virtually another console for $100. It's an extension, like the camera that's $50, just so that you know, this 4K camera with the god-awful microphone that it has that forces me to have this thing in my face. This thing cost me about $50, more than $50. Nintendo camera cost me $50. What's the problem? I don't see the issue. So, like, you're being charged something that's reasonable and you're acting like they're greedy. So, once again, folks, we are slated to have to listen to this shit because YouTube insists on hiding me or people like me who can give you facts and not give you bullshit extremes of one side against another or play into that stupid-ass political angle that I'm just tired of hearing, especially when it's United States-based politics. Tired of hearing it. And we're not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to look this stuff up. I'm going to do the work that these people don't do. And I'm going to tell you that they're lying. Nintendo Direct last week was a good Direct. The console hasn't even been out for 4 fucking months. If you're waiting for Call of Duty 7 to be announced or anything from Sony, both those games or all those titles are terrible anyway. So what do I want them on my Switch to in the first place? But if you're waiting for that in the not even the 4th month of the console's life cycle, I think you are trying to push a little too far. The only thing I had a problem with was I didn't hear about an announcement involving Elden Ring's release. That's all. It was supposed to be this year. We've got less than 3 months left of this year. I really need something else to stream. Nobody gives a shit about my Civilization 7 streams. So I need something else. It was going to be Elden Ring on the Switch too, but I don't know. I don't know when that's coming out. Now, Hades 2, on the other hand, was announced for this coming Thursday. As I mentioned, there are going to be a bunch of projects on that. Loved Hades 1. Looking forward to Hades 2. I'm going to carry on about how woke it is, of course, because I just like making fun of numbnuts. But, you know, guys that say they're guys and act like they're totally against anything leftist, but when they see a slew of gorgeous women on screen, they freak out about how it's woke. Whatever. But we're going to be doing that. And I'm looking forward, of course, to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, The announcements were tremendous. I can't wait to get my hands on Resident Evil Biohazard again, this time on the far superior Switch 2 with the far superior Switch 2 Pro controller. Village, I never got a chance to finish because I was playing on the Switch 1 cloud version. So now this is a physical version. I can't wait to get my hands on that. I was having a grand old time, especially with my lady in her magnificently stunning, sexy as fucking hell, vampiric-like surrogate daughters. Can't wait to get back into that. It's having a good time with that game. And Requiem looks like something I would really enjoy because one of the reasons I was a huge, and I still am, a huge Resident Evil fan. This thing has really hit me in my fucking eye socket. One of the main reasons why I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, even to the point where I was going to the movies to see that stupid-ass series. But the main reason was because it was like an old-fashioned horror movie. So it's nice to see if they go back to that. Because, yeah, there's a side, there's a part of me that doesn't mind the Resident Evil 4 version where you just shoot everything up and get graded on it and buy new shit like Village gave you. But Biohazard was more my style, finding things, solving puzzles, getting through kind of more contemporized areas like mansions or houses, something like that. They do a little bit too much. The gore, yeah, I'm not into the gore, but they do a little too much with the rancid food thing and the fridge being open for 5 years and shit. But it still was a tremendous experience for me. I did play all the Resident Evils, the main titles. I played a lot of spin-offs. Big Resident Evil guy. So I'm really looking forward to that. Will not, by any stretch of the imagination, play Final Fantasy VII's Rebirth Trilogy, even if I was requested it. But seeing as how this is a Friday stream and no one's watching, I'm not being requested anything. So I'm not going to be doing that. But pretty much every game that was announced there, I'm looking forward to. The smaller titles, independent titles, not so much. But it was just really a fun experience last week and enticing as to see what's going to happen in the future. So I know I'm going to keep getting these updates on these people that are acting as if Nintendo's the worst company in the history of mankind, but I really am not interested. I would like YouTube to realize that, but they're not going to. So now that I'm going to finish up, I just want to thank everyone that kind of popped in and out for a second, and anyone that watches in the future. Like, subscribe. Let's push for me to get out there and start giving off truth as opposed to all this garbage. And maybe I can be suggested to even my own channels that I'm subscribed to this one on. See you next week and in the near future for Hades 2.